Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Tuesday Night Raw Q&A with me, Dr. Andi. Let me get my chat switched. There we go. How's the lighting? Hope everyone can see me and hear me. It is Tuesday Night Raw. So we talk about everything raw. Meaning a species-appropriate diet for your dogs. We also talk a lot about chiropractic because that is my specialty. And as can see me, can hear me, lighting looks pretty good. All right, it's the most we can ask for. I'm a certified animal chiropractor. I am a doctor of chiropractic. That means I'm a specialist in functional neurology, if I can talk, and have been in clinical practice for over 20 years now, working with dogs. So I'm not a veterinarian. None of this is veterinary advice. This is information for you to springboard off of and go educate yourself, go investigate stuff, go down your own rabbit holes, to determine what is best for you and your animals. Okay, what do we want to talk about tonight? I want to talk about your questions. So pop them in the chat. If you're new to this community, welcome. Would love to know where you're from. And any question is welcome. All right. I've been raw feeding my dogs for probably over a decade now. I kind of lose track, as we all have since 2020, right? Time just goes poof. And so I love the beginner questions. Love them. It reminds me of the journey that I have gone on, and the journey I still continue. When you raw feed your animals, you are constantly shifting and changing and evaluating and changing what is best for them. And so that's enough about me. Questions in the chat. Let's see. Next week, we have a special guest host, because I will not be here next week. But Dana Chick will be. She is a veterinary cannabis counselor, and she will answer all of your questions, CBD, THC, and your animals. She is she's trained. She has taken a specialized course, and she is amazing. So next week will be dedicated to CBD and THC and all your questions around that. She also does personal one-on-one counseling if you need that for your specialized animal. And she can find the right mixture of things that really can affect your animal. So it's awesome. Mark that down. Next Tuesday, June 6th, 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So Denver time, here on my channel, Dr. Andi's World YouTube channel. Check her out. We'll also do a reminder in our weekly email, which if you are not signed up for, that you can get on that email list at animalmagiccare.com. Get on that list. We are currently working on getting all the past emails up in a blog format, but as tech goes, it's going slowly. But me and my gal Friday, Keisha, we are working on that. And we're working to make that website, animalmagiccare.com, hello, Jamili, more robust and more informative. So if you don't live in the Denver area, that you can send it out to your friends across the country, across the world, so they can get some of the very different information that's out there. It's very different from what maybe you will hear from your conventional veterinarian. And then it's up to you to act and decide what's best for your animals. Get on the email list, Animal Magic Care. If you are in the Denver area and you are looking for canine chiropractic care, I am taking new clients currently. I'm just taking dogs that are less than 100 pounds. The big guys are stressing the joints here. So unfortunately, I did have to do that moving forward, but I am taking new clients. Okay. What's up with the pack? I got nothing new on the pack. We're back to 2 meals a day. My OMAD, my 1 meal a day, just wasn't working with them. Works with me, but not my dogs. So we're back to 2 meals a day. We're still loving Raw Dog Food and Company. And oh yeah, you can catch me and Dee Dee Mercer Moffat, the CEO and president of Raw Dog Food and Company, every Monday morning on her podcast, the Raw Dog Food Truth podcast. There we go. Raw Dog Food Truth podcast on all of your favorite podcast locations, whatever they may be, every Monday morning. And really, we get together and she goes, let's go. And we go. And we have wonderful conversations, generally about chiropractic and the importance of a raw, species-appropriate diet on how that can benefit your animal, which is the number one place I recommend people starting. If you have an inflamed animal, and we talked about this a little bit last week, inflammation, any kind of itis, your animal is inflamed, they need to be off of all processed food. And the basis of all disease, especially chronic disease, but all disease, including all the new heart stuff, pancreatitis, which is an itis, IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, all of your inflammation comes down to feeding a carb-rich processed diet, which is also known as kibble. But we don't talk about it enough when your animal is just in pain. Your animal has back pain, hip pain, knee pain, neck pain. They have pain. They're limping. They can't move their head. They have muscle spasms. Your vet may have called it a disc. I don't know how often it's actually a disc. But that's not where I want to go with this. Change the food. Get them off the kibble. They go onto raw meat. Raw meat. Ground up bone in there, organs, fat. That's what they go on. Reduce the inflammation instantly. Get to a chiropractor instantly. And if you need to, get to your vet for some meds. Okay. Let's see. I don't know if you saw my post on Animal Magic Care on Facebook. There's so much, right? All the social media can drive you batty. I made beef bone broth yesterday. I usually make chicken. I've gotten pretty good at chicken. But I made beef and it did not turn out very well. I think the bones were too meaty and not enough bone and bone marrow to, hello, Ms. Clark, to pull out into the broth. It's really kind of watery. You actually want your bone broth to be gelatinous, like jigglers, like Jello jigglers. And this is far from it. And I posted the actual recipe that I use, and she talks about a meat broth and a bone broth. So I did two, I use the Instapot. I do 30 minutes, pull that out, re-water it. This is really brief, right? And then I do another 120 minutes in the Instapot and pull that out and mix it up. So it's half meat broth and bone broth. And the article goes into why you would maybe want both of them. But we want the collagen, which is not a full amino acid profile. So it's not great for building all the proteins that your dog's body needs, but it is really good for the joints and skin and hair. All right. And then it also helps fill in those gaps in leaky gut that pretty much we all have. Your animals have, I have, you have, we all have form of leaky gut based on our food supply, our food chain, and the best amount of pesticides that's in it. Namely, your glyphosates have been proven to make those gaps in your intestines bigger and contribute to leaky gut. Okay, so check out the post, check out the recipe. I attempt to get my chicken feet from Raw Dog Food and Company. They don't always have it in stock. I've been known to head down to the Chinese markets. I don't know if that's PC to say it that way. I don't know. I don't know. Vietnamese markets, I don't know. But they have a lot of different animal parts, including usually chicken feet. So much better at chicken. I'm going to have to go get some soup bones and try this beef one again because my Torchy can't have chicken. And really chicken, but because it's the omega profile is off on chicken. It has more 6s than 3s than we would like in general because of the diets that they're fed. Blah blah blah. But so I just thought I'd give you an update that I did make beef broth and it didn't turn out great, so you have to try it again. It is any questions out there? Pop them in the chat. Anything. The email this week was, and Dee and I will probably talk about it again, but it is tick, flea, bug season. We seem to have quite a few more ticks, at least in the Colorado area. My understanding is these are deer ticks, and they generally don't carry any tick-borne diseases here. That is not true for ticks in other areas of the country. So take a look at where your trips are this year and plan ahead for that. Do you want to use one of the conventional chemicals to prevent them, or do you want to stick with natural versions? The number one thing, and that was what was in that email, and I actually just reprinted the article that Dana Scott from Dogs Naturally magazine wrote because it was such a marvelous article. She covered all the points I wanted to cover. I learned a couple new things, which I always love doing these emails. I always learn something new, which is just basically my target in life is just to keep learning things. I just absolutely adore it. And I hope you do too. But she was talking about cofactors in manifesting Lyme disease. Okay. I had conversations with folks during 2020 about this, that just because you are exposed to a pathogen, be it a virus, a bacteria, tick-borne, just because there's an exposure doesn't mean you will get sick. Does not mean that you will manifest signs and symptoms. Does not mean that your immune system will let it get by. Okay. We all have immune systems. Your dogs have immune systems. Okay. They are meant to do a job. And when we support that immune system in its job, it should handle the exposures to the bugs, whatever those bugs may be. Okay. I hope that's clear. It's clear because we tend to forget. Conventional medicine tends to forget we have immune systems that are designed to handle this stuff. Okay. So if your dog happens to have a tick attach itself to the dog, so I would go over your animals as often as you can, especially if you're outside on a hike or outside doing stuff. Go over your animals, see if you can locate the tick, if there's a tick. Okay, grab it with your fingers, grab it with some tweezers, get some essential oils, peppermint, lavender, purification, whatever you got, pour it on the tick, because then that tick will back out. Thank you, Jamili. She says it's clear. Will back out and you have the tick. Okay, drop them in a baggie. Okay, because you can just rip it out, but then you run the chance of the head being stuck in there and blah, blah, blah. We don't want that. The essential oil trick works like a charm. So if you don't even have any essential oils, go buy some essential oils so you have one on hand. Okay. Plus, if you are using lavender purification, peppermint, the dogs have never complained, because that's what I had to use the other day when I found a tick on one of my clients, because she had peppermint. So we use peppermint. It's got a burn, but they don't ever seem to have a problem with it. the ticks do. But if you're using lavender and purification, you're also getting antibacterial, antiviral properties into there right away, instantly. But the sooner you get the little critter off your animal, the better, and yourself. All of this goes for yourself too. You can get ticks off of you doing the same technique. Cofactors. That's where I wanted to go, with cofactors. And what Dana Scott was talking about in her article was that the biggest factor of your dog presenting with signs and symptoms of Lyme disease seems to be these cofactors. There's already an underlying issue that's already compromising the immune system. All right. So if your dog gets bit by a tick, there's a very actually small percentage that they will contract the Lyme disease. Okay. There's a lot of variables. It depends on adult ticks versus nymph ticks versus all of these things, and the time of year and how long the tick was on the dog and blah, blah, blah. But the immune system is designed to handle that Borrelia, I think it's Borrelia, always coming into the system, and it should eliminate it if there's no underlying issue or cofactor, as Dana mentioned. Cofactors being an underlying viral infection, underlying bacteria, underlying disease process of any kind. And she poses the question of what if all of those cofactors could also be all the conventional medicines preventatives. Your heartworm preventative, your flea and tick pesticide that you either give your dog internally or put on the skin. All right. Those could be cofactors that are unfortunately dampening the immune system's response, which actually then may have your animal be more susceptible to presenting with the Lyme disease. Something for you to go, So the best thing you can do if you're worried about Lyme disease or any kind of disease process is get your animal on a raw species appropriate diet that is going to support the immune system. Because when you feed a high carbohydrate processed food diet, you are also dampening the immune system. You are also dampening the digestive system. You are also compromising the animal system as a whole. So, and bugs don't like healthy dogs. It's the strangest phenomenon. I've talked about it many times. I'll talk about it again. If you have a healthy, raw-fed, appropriate, minimally vaccinated, minimally chemical exposed animal on your hands, the bugs are less likely to want to attach themselves to that animal. They are looking for the weakest link. They are looking for the sickest animal they can find. It's just easier. Because I was going to say, I don't know why, but I kind of do know why. Well, I kind of have my suspicion. This is my suspicion, right? If we all want to stay alive, right? Survival of the fittest. If that's a universal truth. So that bug's going to be like, well, if I want to stay alive, I'm going to attach myself to this animal. And even, I'm going to take it back a step. I'm going to see if I can get this out of my head where it makes some sense. I may fail at this, but I'm going to give it a whirl. So let's say that Lyme disease bacteria, I don't know if it's single cell or not. I don't know what kind of bacteria it is. I really don't. I mean, I could look it up. You could look it up. Borrelia, I'm pretty sure. And its sole purpose is to reproduce and live, right? So isn't it going to motivate the tick to choose an animal or person that it has a better chance of surviving with? Or and if this is like so not coming across, I so get it. So I apologize. Um, or are yeah, it's in my head and I can't get it out in the words, so I apologize. But we're all everything, even down to the minuscule critters, bacteria, single cell organisms, their whole intention is to survive. And so, do they instinctively know that if they choose an animal that is less well, that they have a higher chance of surviving? There we go. Now, does that get into a little woo woo and a little energetics and it's a little out there, Andy? Absolutely. Do the, and then it's like, okay, well, do the ticks attach to whatever comes by, which is the theory, right? Whatever comes by, the tick grabs on. Um, do, do the animals that are really healthy actually really just don't taste good? I don't know. Like, or is taste even the proper word for it? I don't know. I'm kind of going off on this weird tangent down this odd rabbit hole. But the best thing you can do to prevent disease of any kind is diet. Non-processed, no carb, low carb, raw, species appropriate. This goes for us too. Okay. You want to prevent disease. You want to prevent inflammation, which is the basis of all chronic disease. Get rid of the carbs, get rid of the processed food. Whole food products in our animals and our dogs. It's a raw meat diet. So that's where you start. Start with diet. Be educated and choose wisely when it comes to any kind of conventional medicine, veterinary medicine, pharmaceuticals. Exercise minimally to moderately. Chiropractic care, body work, and enjoy your animal. Have some fun, right? Jamelia, I put the bone broth over the meals. I don't know. It's like a couple tablespoons for the big ones and half a tablespoon or something for the little ones. I don't know. Maybe it needs to be a lot more. I don't know. I just kind of just splash it on there. I actually gave the beef to the cats this time because they don't like anything that flies. And they were up there. They were all ready for their food. They sniffed it with the bone broth and they both walked away. They did end up eating it though. So I guess they had to think about it. Okay. Parasites attracted to sugar too. I have no idea. I suppose it's possible, right? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, Keisha. The path of least resistance for survival. Least resistance is a weakened immune system. Yeah. But how do they know, Chandel? Is that an energetic knowing? Is that it's just something to make you go, right? Yeah, wondering if there's a correlation between raw fed animals have less sugar in their blood. I can talk on the people front on that, and I'm going to extrapolate that the dogs are not much different in that the fact that the body keeps a very tight control over what is actually in the blood. The pH is held super tight. The amount of blood glucose is very tight and at least the human body, we can make all the glucose that we require from glucose, protein, or fat. I don't know about the dogs, but I would assume that their blood values are held in very tight form like ours. Like it's very important. So would there be any more blood glucose or sugar in the blood in less well animals? I doubt it. Now, there's probably more glucose being stored in the liver. There's more glucose being stored in muscle. You're going to have more muscle wasting, less lean muscle mass, more fat. But in the actual blood, no, would be my off the top of my head intuit answer without asking Dr. Google. Chandel says maybe it's an intelligence thing with parasites bug. Maybe it's luck of the draw. Yeah, maybe the ones that land on compromised win. And those are the ones that we see have signs and symptoms, right? I don't know. I mean, we've taught it. It's a fun question to ponder. I don't think there's an actual answer per se. But I remember being with friends up at Grand Lake, and literally I'm standing there. My friend is standing there, and she is just, boom, 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 bugs, 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 bugs. And I'm like, what bugs? Nobody was bothering me. She's struggling with severe gut issues, and I'm not. How do the bugs know? Right? Down in Costa Rica, my roommate be like, oh my gosh, bugs, 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 bugs. You got the bug spray, bugs, bugs, bugs. And I'm like, what bugs? But I've always been like that. I've never been that person that the bugs love, right? We always know that person that the bugs love. Is it just the slightest change in pH that they can pick up on? It's possible, right? So kind of a fun question to ponder. If anyone feels the need to go down that rabbit hole on with Google, we would love any information you come up with. I don't know. Somebody probably knows something out there, right? It's super cool to think about that stuff. I always like to point out, and this is like such a small little pool that this is just anecdotal, but I only know in the last 20 years of 2 dogs here in the state of Colorado that have contracted heartworm disease in the state of Colorado. We have a lot of dogs that come up from Texas with heartworm, mainly Texas. Dogs have traveled other places and contracted heartworm. And it's very similar to what we were just talking about with Lyme disease, meaning that the immunocompromised or underlying cofactors or underlying immune issues, diseases contribute to the animal being weakened and being susceptible to the heartworm that is coming from the mosquitoes. The mosquitoes bite your dog and they leave heartworm behind. There's a whole life cycle with it, and there's a lot of other extenuating circumstances, but that's the gist of it. Kind of like the tick grabs onto your animal for the blood, right? Mosquito lands on your animal for the blood, and they leave behind a present, either Lyme disease or heartworm. And the immune system is designed to handle, your dog's immune system is designed to handle the heartworm if it's up and running. But in 20 years, I've met 2 dogs that contacted heartworm here in Colorado. Like that, this is where they've lived for years and years and years and never traveled. And both were on year-round heartworm preventative. It gives you an idea that those cofactors, those could be conventional preventative measures, is compromising the immune system enough that allows the bugs to win. Just keep that in mind. Do your own investigating, educate yourself and what's going to work for you and your animals. Talking about bugs, our region has a very unusual amount of rain this spring. Are there any bug critters that might be prevalent that aren't common to this region normally? I've had reports of a lot more ticks very early on in the season because of the rain, but prevalent that aren't common, Not that I'm aware of. Now, over the last 20 years, there's been a lot more flea issues in Colorado that we've never had before because we get hard freezes, we get snow, we get a heck of a winter, whereas California, Texas, Florida, they don't have those winters, so the flea problem down there. So the last so many handful of years, there's been more fleas here. I don't know why. It doesn't really make that much sense because our winters have been just as awful to kill everything, right? And as it pertains to mosquitoes and fleas, the best thing to do with fleas is prevention. Once that you have an infestation, so poor Ashley's probably having like flashbacks because she did have to deal with this. Oh, rabbits. Rabbits are the biggest problem with fleas, by the way. So if you can, get them out of your yard. Get them out, get them out, get them out. I know, fleas are a trigger word for Ashley. Sorry, dear. Once you have an infestation, you tend to have to go to some of the uglier stuff. There is Wondercide. You can use diatomaceous earth. Ash and I were reading not too long ago. I believe you can bomb your house with diffusers with black pepper essential oil, but it is so potent that you do have to leave, and all the animals have to leave. I think that was in my animal essential oil desk reference book by Dr. Melissa Shelton. She used to be with Young Living Oil. She has developed a new line of oils, which Keisha and I have put her link up many times in the past. It's animaleo.com, I think. But I love this, Ashley. And then I'm going to get back to Chandel real quick. Ashley's curious to see if Addie is healthy enough this year to not be attracted to those black little nasties. That is a mindset that is so different from the average Joe, right? The average Joe going through life, and that's not who's coming and talking to me. It's not who's coming and listening to me and Dee Dee talk on her podcast. We have these different mindsets. Like, we're more interested in how healthy is our animal as to not attract these bugs. The common mindset is, I better get the prevention on them early, which then, as we just talked about for the last 30 so many minutes, 25 minutes, is going to degrade their immune system further. But she's curious to see how much she worked on Addie's health through the winter, right? How healthy is her dog so that the fleas aren't interested, the ticks aren't interested. Okay. And just take note of that mindset and take note of your mindset. Is that how you see things? How healthy can I get my animals? Not what a prevention can I do? Not what should I do what is my vet going to tell me what to do? But how healthy can I get my animal? That's the target. People have been complaining about the moths. I haven't noticed them up here. I'm a little higher altitude. I'm about 7,200 feet. And we've had a couple, but maybe I don't know. But, I did notice at one of the stoplights, the swallows were everywhere already. Now, that was interesting because they're not usually swarming the stoplights, which is where all the moths hang out because of the stoplights, this early in the season. So we have had a lot of rain. Talking about bugs, regions, fleas. Yeah, bunnies, so gross for the life cycle of many bugs. Back to mosquitoes and heartworm real quick. Extra rain, maybe there's extra standing water. Maybe I don't know yet. Maybe we'll have an earlier season for mosquitoes. But the presence of mosquitoes does not mean they can incubate the heartworm disease. Okay, that is dependent on the temperature. And the temperature has to stay above, I believe, 50 degrees for 30 days in a row for the mosquito to be able to incubate the disease to pass it on to your dog. All right. So if you are headed up to the mountains on a regular basis and there's more mosquitoes up there, most likely none of those mosquitoes have heartworm. Most likely, probability, possibility, right? Because it gets so cold at night. There may be more mosquitoes because there's more water, more dampness, but most likely they are not carrying heartworm because of the temperature that is required. So all of these bugs have life cycles. All of these bugs have different vectors, and none of this is discussed. Either A, they don't think people are smart enough to understand, or B, nobody wants to take the time or see it's something else. I don't know. Quick little aside that I learned recently, and see, I'm still learning. Skunks, we have rabid skunks in the state of Colorado, not many. Don't get too excited, but they're actually not a vector that can transfer it to your dog. I don't, are the other animals. And you can actually go on to the state of Colorado's website. I should know this. I should know this website. I really should. I have to Google it every time I go on it, but, and look up how many cases of rabies in the state of Colorado there is every year. And I think you mean break it down by county. So the veterinarians are responsible for keeping track of that. The veterinarians as a whole, whatever, their board and all that. So you can look it up. And you can look at how small the number is compared to the number of animals and livestock and wildlife that's out there. Just throwing that out there. But you can go take a look. It's all there. It's all there for you. Miller Moss, it must be the elevation. My work in Golden was infested. I brought lavender and a diffuser to the office. Yeah. Yeah, it must be an elevation thing because they haven't gotten up here yet. They usually do later in the summer, so I don't know, maybe they're coming. So fleas, ticks. Dee Dee and I on the Raw Dog Food Truth podcast, we talked a little bit about springtime in general. We happened to get on the topic of seizures. And it was last year that I really had a notice, hasn't happened yet this spring, but an uptick in regular clients that started having seizures. And we talked about how many people start their heartworm preventative, how many put on the flea and tick chemicals or have their dogs ingest that, how many are now going to the kiddos' baseball fields that are beautifully manicured in green, which are definitely sprayed with pesticides. Like our exposure in the spring goes up dramatically, as does our animals' exposure to toxins. And it may just send them over that tipping edge. So just keep that in mind for your own animals or friends' animals that maybe just all of a sudden, it's never all of a sudden, that's a whole nother, conversation that we can have, but that started to have seizures that never had them before. Again, change the food. Look at your toxin loads. Look at your toxin exposures in the springtime. Stop all the pesticides, stop all the pharmaceuticals that you possibly can. It stresses the liver out, and so on and so forth. But just take a mental note of that. Yes, as you said, I have to put Sam and Ruby on notice. And actually, there was one in the house. There really was, and he was on it. Yeah, I have lazy cats. They try a little bit and then they walk away. I have the funniest cats. They were so not motivated. Yeah, walks around the neighborhood, started to do our best to avoid the really nice lawns with no dandelions. Yeah. Avoid those. Avoid the soccer fields, the baseball fields. Even here, if you've not been to my neighborhood, we're actually not allowed to have lawns. We're not allowed to have outside sprinkling systems. It's all native wild grasses, which I think is way cool because I hate landscaping. I hate it. I hate it. You're lucky if I plant a couple flowers a year. Like, it is not my thing. It's not my thing. My husband does it all, and he's already got his new mulch and his flower. Oh, I better go water those. It didn't rain. Shoot. I better go water the flowers out front. And so everything is native, and we do have some neighbors that spray their weeds instead of mowing them. Sean's not allowed to spray them. We don't spray them. We mow them, and we'll walk on the other side of the street. And I gotta pay attention to the flags and pay attention when the trucks are out. And my dog walker and my husband and everybody knows we don't walk over there. Now, is that all summer? No. Is it after a good couple hard rains and you'd like to think it, washes away? Yeah. I mean, sometimes after a few weeks, I forget. Like, it's such as life. But when it's newly sprayed or those beautiful lawns, avoid them because they go right up your dog's pads, all those toxins right into the whole system. Thank you, Chandel. The flower beds look good. Thank you. That is my husband. That is not me. And I like to give him as much credit as possible because he does a lot of work out there. Yeah, it's not raining here. It rained a little bit, kind of passed over us. Fleas, ticks. That I have another little dog who's prone to seizures, and she contacted me about a natural alternative, and there was an ultrasonic tag. Let me see for dogs, ultrasonic flea and tick. Let me see if I can find it. Of course, it's not popping up when I wanted it to. But it's actually infused with energy. It's energetically infused to emit that to keep the bugs off the dogs. And it's a small little tag because especially with this little one and maybe Chandel's little one, we don't even really want to do a whole bunch of essential oils. I mean, all of that can be misconstrued by the body as something that needs to be handled by the liver. And we want to make sure that liver is as happy as can be. I will see if I can find that link and get that to Keisha, and she'll put it in the show notes. It's a little pricey. And then there were like ones that kind of were really big and kind of vibraty on Amazon that were cheap. And that's not what I was looking at. I'll see if I can find it. We'll get it in the show notes for you. You can take a look at it. So far, I think I'm pretty naive up here with mine. I don't do a lot of hiking because I don't have a lot of time, even though I'd like to go hiking. So we don't get out into the weeds very much. We walk around my beautiful neighborhood, but we're usually on the street. I think I am going, that was the other thing that was in my email was the nematodes. I think I'm going to order some nematodes and put them on the outside of the kiddos' little enclosure, which the enclosure is astroturfed. And so that keeps the bugs down. And yes, okay, there's astroturf. There's pros and cons to everything. Yes, there's outgassing of plastic. And yes, we put zeolite down. And yes, then that zeolite has heavy metals, particularly aluminum. And so we try to give them beds so they're not on there's only so much you can do. Only so much you can do. And I drive myself a little batty as it is. But there's not as many creepy crawlies in the backyard when they're out there. And then I feed a great diet, and we do some supplements. Garlic, you can add garlic. Bugs don't like garlic. So if you want to add garlic to their food. I had a client recently up the amount of garlic she was giving her dog, gave him terrible farts during his appointment. That was not fun. But you can get the little nematodes you can spread out, and they'll eat up the ticks. Chickens eat ticks. So if you can have chickens, get some chickens. I think that also has a whole nother world of things that come with chickens. I would love to have chickens, but I don't need another critter to take care of. So I don't have chickens. Okay. Did I get everybody's questions? I think so. We're looking forward to seeing how healthy Addie is and how healthy we can get our animals. I'm gonna write that down right now. I'm gonna find that, and I'm gonna send that to Keisha right away so she can get that in the show notes so you can take a look at that. You can mix up your own essential oil, flea and tick. You can kind of spray that on before you go out for walks. So inside and out, healthy on the inside, keep them stinky on the outside so they're not attractive at all to the bugs. All right, my friends. Dana Chick, veterinary cannabis counselor, will be here next Tuesday, 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on this YouTube channel, Dr. Andi's World. Bring your questions about CBD and THC. I will be on the Raw Dog Food Truth podcast with Dee Dee Mercer Moffitt Monday morning. I have no idea what we'll be talking about. It's always fun. She goes, let's go. I'm like, okay. And we go. Probably talk a little bit more maybe about Lyme disease and functional neurology and chiropractic care and the immune system. It's all intertwined, folks. So that's every Monday morning. Animal Magic Care is my website. You can get on the email list there. You can get a new client appointment there if you're in the Denver area. The best places to find a certified animal chiropractor in your area is actually the AVCA's website. Although not everybody is AVCA certified, nor do they have to be. So you could be missing out on a lot of gems out there that are not AVCA certified. But then I would call your state's chiropractic association and see if they have a list or see if they know of somebody. They're going to be a lot more welcoming of the questions than possibly the vet side of things, right? And you can find out your state laws from the Chiropractic Association. They're going to be much more helpful. But those are your two best places. If you have a friend looking outside of the state of Colorado. I think that's it, folks. Ladies, it was a wonderful May 30th Tuesday Night Raw Q&A. Thank you for being here. I'm so grateful for you. Thank you for your questions. I hope you learned something. If you learned one thing, that means this was a successful live, and we will go from there. How about that, folks? So grateful for all of you, and until next time, always, how much fun can you have with your animals? Love ya. Mwah.